Now that you've completed revisions for all 3 of your final portfolio essays, it's time to start on the final stage of the writing process, which is editing and proofreading. This presentation will give you some strategies you can use to proofread your essays before you turn them in with your final portfolio next week. Expert writers have found that the following strategies can be really useful for finding errors in your own writing. One strategy you could try would be to read the paper backwards by paragraph or by sentence. This sounds like a strange thing to do, but there's a good reason for it. When you read something backwards, you're not paying attention to the flow of the ideas. Instead, it allows you to look at words and sentences individually. So it's easier to see misspelled words or missing words when you're reading backwards in that way. Another strategy you can use is to read your work aloud, or you can have somebody else read your work while you listen and read along. This is an awkward thing to do. It's good to do in the privacy of your home or your bedroom if you want to. But the reason why reading aloud works, as we've talked about, is because it makes you slow down and it lets you hear your words differently. You can find different words that are missing. You can see if you have some punctuation errors or those types of things, because reading aloud makes you slow down and pay attention to the words themselves in a way that you can't do when you're reading it quickly. The third strategy to try would be to look for errors that you know you consistently make. So when you get your feedback from me and my comments on your drafts, I may be making comments about comma issues or passive voice or spelling issues, capitalization issues. If you know you typically make those types of errors, then use that knowledge to go back and review your work. So if you know that you always forget to capitalize the first word of the sentence, look at each first word of each sentence, make sure it's capitalized. So that's an easy way to use your knowledge about yourself and your writing practices to revise and edit. The reason why I emphasize proofreading is for one reason, and one main reason. I want you to set yourself up for success. And to think about this, it helps to think about the people who will be reading and evaluating your final portfolio. So what we know is this: it's important to pay attention to the details. And the reason why is because of the amount of work that professors are asked to do at the end of the semester to grade Writing 150 portfolios. Each professor teaches 3 sections of Writing 150 on average. That means because each section has 26 students, each professor is responsible for grading 78 student portfolios. And as we know, each student submits 3 essays. So in total, each professor reads 234 student essays to complete the grading for their students alone. But, as you know, we grade collaboratively in Writing 150, which means that professors are grading their students and other people's students as well. So on average, each professor is reading 468 student essays at the end of the term. We focus on the big picture ideas, the skills, and the concepts that we've been teaching you all semester. But when you pay attention to details, we notice and it helps. So here's specifically what I would encourage you to focus on as you edit your drafts. First, formatting. And by formatting, I mean page layout and works-cited pages. So if you can, print your paper out to see how it looks. Make sure that the fonts and sizes are consistent in each essay. It should be 12-point Times New Roman font or Arial, but just make sure that in one essay that you're using only one font. Check your margins, check your paragraph indents, and check your line spacing, and make sure that your titles are formatted correctly with either quotes or italics or those types of things if necessary. You should also pay attention to your in-text citations, and we've talked about this a lot in class, and I have been commenting on this on your drafts. Make sure that your quotations are punctuated correctly, so that means that the closing punctuation usually falls outside of the quote. If there's a comma, that goes inside the quote. And especially make sure you're paying attention to cross-referencing. So make sure that the in-text citation that you have for a source matches the first item that you see in the works cited list. Review your works cited page. Make sure that you're using MLA8 style and that you're focusing on consistency. If you used a citation generator, double check the text that it generated because it's not always correct. So use your handbook or use the Purdue OWL or other online resources to help you make sure that your citations are formatted correctly. Make sure that you're only listing sources that you cited directly in your essay. I don't want to see a bunch of extra sources in there that you don't cite or paraphrase. So make sure that everything that is in the works cited matches everything that's in the in-text citations in your essay. And finally, focus on sentence level issues. And by that, I mean spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Please be sure to use your spell check and your grammar check. If you see red squiggly lines or blue squiggly lines under words, right-click on them, see what corrections they offer. More often than not, those suggestions are correct. Also, be sure to review the comments that you've gotten on your drafts. If you have questions about how to fix an error that I marked, ask me for help or talk to a Writing Center consultant. We can help you figure out how to address those errors in your drafts. So to do this, here's what I'd suggest. In the week 14 folder on Blackboard, you'll see a proofreading checklist. I'd encourage you to review it. And then after you do that, use that checklist to review each of your final portfolio essays. As you're reviewing, focus on formatting, in-text citations, works cited pages, and sentence level issues. If you pay attention and focus on the details at this stage in the process, it can help your final portfolio because it leaves a good impression, and that's exactly what you want to accomplish when you turn in your final work for Writing 150.